Welcome back to the Milwaukee Show, and today we're talking about my Stanley Cup favorites going in to the playoffs, as the Stanley Cup Finals, the Stanley Cup playoffs are just around the corner, as we're a quarter of about the end of the season, and it's right after the trade deadline, and the NHL is ready to go. The soldiers are put together, the generals are in command, and the top contenders are showing. Because, I mean, and I don't think anyone, or most people, are going to agree with my list, but I just think going off of, like, the recent history of the NHL and going off of what has been proven over and over again about other teams and some teams, that these four are the top contenders. And I'll bring up some other ones, and I'll talk more extensively about the other teams in another video of why I don't think they are, but I will mention a few throughout this video. But for the top prize fighters, I think going into it, we have to start off with the Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, the defending Stanley Cup champions. They're the best. This team has proven over and over again that they have every single one of the facets down that you need to win a Stanley Cup. And I have like about 5. You need goaltending, good defensive depth that shuts down other teams' defense, other teams' offense, and puts the puck back the other way. And that can be in multitude kinds of ways. If that's Tampa Bay or Vegas' style, just shut down, turn the puck over to the offense, go down the ice as a team. Or if it's like the Avalanche, where there's just a total onslaught and let the other team not breathe at all using their skill. But Vegas has that down. When it comes to offense, they've got stars who can score like Jack Eichel and Mark Stone and Jonathan Marchessault, who can show up and be that true guy that they need to be that goal scorer in the playoffs, and depth to keep their team always pushing the pressure. Vegas has it all down, and they proved it last year. That's why they made every single other team in the NHL look like silly idiots in the playoffs. From Florida, who was the everyone's, even mine, the darling to go in that didn't look like they could be stopped. They were made to look like a fool. The Dallas Stars couldn't stand anything. They made a goalie like Jake Ottinger, who I'll bring up later in this video, look like just absolute Swiss cheese out there. He couldn't stop anything. Vegas has it down. From their coaching just being absolutely fantastic with their systems, they know how to play as a team. If there is any team in the NHL that knows how team hockey works, which is what you need in the playoffs, Vegas has it down. Every single team, I don't know, they might be the team when it comes to coaching and like overall coaching. Like, you know, Paul Maurice and other coaches are great, but I think when it comes to overall strategies and team play, they play the best. But they have proven that they can win the Stanley Cup. They did it last year, and they did it with ease, with the same core that they're bringing into this season. And not just that, they're not coming back in with Jack Eichel. They're not just coming back in with Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore. They're not coming back with Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson. They don't just have the guys that rallied the team together to win the Stanley Cup. They're coming back with even somehow better, they're coming back better through cheating, as we all know, and that'll be a whole other video on its own, but I'm sure you've heard of it already. But using their salary cap ways of getting around things, which is legal, so you can be mad that they do it, but every single one of the NHL teams can do it, so you should be mad that the Edmonton Oilers haven't figured out a way to do it yet. But, I mean, why don't they just bench Leon Draisaitl like they did with Kucherov with the Lightning or Mark Stone here? Because McDavid's all they need to get through. But anyways, the Vegas Golden Knights, using their tactics, they now have brought in Tomas Hertl, and him and Mark Stone are currently out, and I will guess are most likely going to be ready for Game 1. They bring in Noah Hanifin to already boost their incredible defense, and Anthony Mantha, who's a guy that I think is going to be a super solid power forward who doesn't need to take a lot of load. But that's the thing about the playoffs and offensive depth, is that it's not always about the team. It's not about the depth scoring points. You don't even need to always have a goal on the board. It's a matter of the guys like Eichel and Marchessault going out there and just adding so much pressure, maybe putting in a goal, and then guys like Anthony Mantha to go out there, throw a body, and then just keep the pressure going. That's what it's all about, and the depth of Vegas is so good. Chandler Stevenson, where is he going to go now with the likes of Hertl and Jack Eichel? Is he going to go to the wing to play in the top lines, or is he pushed down to like a third or fourth line role, which just is incredible that they can pull pull that off. And defensively, Theodore, Hannafin, Petrangelo, Martinez, like this whole team, every single one of the defensive players shut down machines, and behind them all is Aiden Hill, who is an absolutely amazing whack job of your goaltender who will just throw his body around and make sure the puck never goes in. Vegas, I can keep riding them all day. And I would, because this team, everything I can love about them, they have it down to win a Stanley Cup. And not just that, but they also have the building that they go play into, and the amount of momentum that this team puts together is insane. No other teams like it when it comes to playing in their own house. No other team touches them. Momentum, just this whole team has the whole package going just for them. And I could keep talking about them all day, but you get it. Vegas, defending Stanley Cup champs, this exact team proved it before, and they've added even better players. Unreal. Moving on to the potential team that they almost played in the finals last year, the Carolina Hurricanes. Made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and they were bounced mainly by Bobrovsky. The rest of the Florida, those games, if you remember watching them, like I do, because they were insane. And Rod Brindamore said it, I think, the best. He said something along the lines of, it was a sweep, but it wasn't a sweep. And it absolutely was so true. Florida wins in 4 games, but those games were neck and neck. And it's not because Florida was, doing great back and forth pressure. Carolina was all over Bobrovsky. I remember games being 40 shots to maybe 20. I remember games just being Bobrovsky just holding down the fort, keeping it 2-2. And Florida just having guys like Matthew Tkachuk and Barkov just being able to bleed a couple goals into the back of the net of the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes had it in the bag. They just needed to seal the deal. And that is the issue with the Canes, is that they have no one on that team to do that. Sebastian Aho just isn't the guy. Guys like Martin Necas are not the guy. They don't have a guy on this team. They just don't. They need a superstar, and I'm kind of surprised that they've never gone out there to go on a big move to try to lock someone up like that. I'm sure they've tried in the past, I'm sure, to maybe make something happen, but they don't have a guy. But their structure works so well. This is one of the deepest teams on defense and offense that you're going to find, and especially with, the rebirth of Brent Burns. I know you get the whole understanding of this team, but why did they lose? Why does this team that is so, I've ridden so hard for the last 2 years, why was my cup favorite last season, and then going in this one once again mine? I've talked so much about them, but their issue is still scoring. It was last year where they don't have a guy like Matthew Tkachuk to bury the puck in the back of the net. They just don't have that guy. No one on that team they can find. No one steps up. They just don't have the guy. And a guy like Bobrovsky shuts them down. So, did they fix that? I think they did. They didn't go out there and they didn't find a Sidney Crosby or a McKinnon or Ovechkin to put in the back of the net. They go out there and they bring in Jake Gensel, who is a playoff stud in Pittsburgh. And Jake Gensel, I'm sure, going from the miserable team in Pittsburgh to playing in Carolina, who's once again a packed house like the Vegas Golden Knights. He's going to go in there, and he's already proven in the past to be a playoff hero with the Carolina Hurricanes, and now with Kuznetsov on his line as well, who they also bring in. I think the top 6 scoring is going to be just elevated to that next level. Because now, instead of them going on that one guy, let's say they bring in Brady Tkachuk, right? Let's bring another Tkachuk. I think one Brady Tkachuk in the playoffs, in that fight and grind in the middle to get to the front of the net and just bounce the puck in no matter what it takes. If it takes getting punched and hit in the face with a stick or whatever it takes to bleed, they're going to recover that with the scoring of Jake Gensel. And guys going into this playoffs like Jack Drury coming up and Seth Jarvis just taking that next step forward. Sebastian Aho is on currently one of his best seasons and maybe could break his best season record. There's a lot of elements that I really like about Carolina, and especially when it comes to their defense, of Brent Burns, just that Slavin, the whole crew back there of Brett Pesce, that entire core has been one of the best in the playoffs for the last few years, and especially with the addition of Brent Burns adds another level to that extreme that they can go to. And then in the back end of Kochetkov and Anderson, this team's got it all. This team has all the holes filled, and they filled in the holes that they were missing last season. And I really like them going into this year. Carolina, I'm a fan of. Easily top team. Then going back to the West, Dallas lost in the Western Conference Finals to the Vegas Golden Knights, and they were my pick going into the conference finals. I thought Vegas was getting easy matchups. I thought going up against Edmonton, I wasn't a big fan of Edmonton's core, and I didn't think they had a chance, and I thought Vegas rightfully did squash them, and I thought against LA, I also think LA was not ready for, that's not who they played, but whatever. I just think Vegas, I don't think they got easy matchups, but they were obviously the better team, but Dallas was their match, but not at all. That Dallas just stomped by the Vegas Golden Knights. And I don't know what happened. I think Vegas was just too good. They were on a mission. The Vegas Golden Knights were just easily just the team. There was no one to challenge them. No one could step toe-to-toe with them. It was Vegas in every single one of the rounds. Every single period, it felt like Vegas's period. Even, it always felt like if there was a bad period in a game for Vegas in a game, it wasn't, what a period for the Stars. It was, what a bad period for the Knights. That's when you know you're the better team, is when they're talking about you being bad, not the other team being good. And Vegas stomped the Dallas Stars. And now this year, I think with the loss that you get and what you learn from that Dallas went through, he's going to solidify this team. I think the additions of Chris Tanev onto this team, and especially Logan Stankoven, this team is stacked. In the top lines of offense, they can roll 3 fantastic lines and a 4th line that can easily just keep themselves happy out there. But 3 lines that can go out there, not just keep the pressure up, but can score at will. And I mean at will. Stankoven, 8 points in 10 games. Wyatt Johnston, last year in the playoffs, was just a magnet to the puck. Jamie Benn still on the team. Tyler Seguin. We're not even touching Jason Robertson or Rupe Hintz or Joe Pavelski yet. We got so many guys on this team that are just ready to just dominate the ice and destroy the opponent. And then defensively, this team has got one of the best two-way, I think, overall defenses of the teams on this board. When it comes, Heiskanen is just, I feel like he's one of the more underrated players. I think if he put up more points, people would really recognize him. But he does so much for his team. So much, and he's such a dog on the ice. Him and Chris Tanev now. Tanev going to be blocking shots and shutting down the opponent. When they go up against a team like Vegas, Tanev can be a one-man shutdown machine against that whole line. So can Heiskanen, but he can only do so much when he's playing 40 minutes a game. And then you get down the lineup to Ryan Suter as well. Just this whole line of Lundell, everyone on this team in Hawk and Paw. Like, over and over again, Dallas has them beat. And if all else fails, they have Jake Ottinger, the next best goaltender in the NHL. This team is just ready for a Stanley Cup win. It is ready. If it's this year or if it's next year, they are ready for it. They are going to at least make it to the conference finals in my eyes. There's no way. They shut down teams like the Avalanche. They shut down teams like the Jets. They are bouncing those guys out, and they are going on. Then the Florida Panthers, the runner-up, the darlings, the Cinderella story last season. And it's kind of funny. I think people don't realize that last year, when they went into the playoffs, they were the wild card team, right? They barely snuck in. But people forget that the year before, they won the President's Trophy. They just had a really tough year, and they did not do very well in the regular season. And then when they got into the actual season, people forget they were like on a 5-game winning streak. They made it in. Like, this team is a proven superstar team. They just had a tough year in the regular season, tough spouts where they just couldn't do anything good. Then they got in and then refound what they were, and then they were good again. This season, once again, top team in the NHL currently, and they look even better than ever. Bobrovsky has found himself for the entire year as being a Vezina candidate once again. He will find himself in the playoffs again. If they don't, they still have Stolarz, who's actually fantastic as well in the back of the net. So, goaltending is fine. Defensively, with the additions of Kulikov and Ekman-Larsson to the back end, still being able to put up points, and Kulikov shut down guys. Aaron Ekblad, I think, will most likely be back for the playoffs. Defensively, they're incredible. And then offense. The best offense in the league. Like, this team has just the swarm down. They can just absolutely dogpile and onslaught any team that goes up against them. This team has everything that every other team has, including just a fighting fighting fighter that just doesn't stop in Matthew Tkachuk. And I think that is the one thing that elevates them. Is this, none of these teams have a Matthew Tkachuk. Jack Eichel and Marchessault, you can say, are close, but they are just not that guy. You can go to the Carolina Hurricanes. The whole point of their issue is that they don't have that guy. The Dallas Stars, they didn't have him last year. Maybe a guy like Stankoven can step up. Maybe a Johnston. Maybe this is the year a guy like Rupe Hintz or Robertson finally dominates in the playoffs. Maybe. But Matthew Tkachuk is a different kind of player. He is that overtime magnet. And that is one thing that separates them from the rest of the pack, as well as just the super defensive two-way forward of Barkov, the goal scorer of Sam Reinhart. Every single player, Verhaeghe, just the offense is brimmed, is just overflowing for the Florida Panthers. And I think they're 1,000,000 times percent way better off in a position than other teams. Because I'm sure, you could watch this and go, well, what the hell about the Maple Leafs? They got offense. The Maple Leafs have nothing on Florida or any of these teams. The Maple Leafs are bounced by every single one of these teams on the board. Their goaltending is not that incredible. Defense has always been an issue, and forward depth is insanely bad. Are not those guys. The Avalanche of the Dallas Stars of the Central Division, right, currently are above the Dallas Stars. Right this season, I think Nathan MacKinnon is pulling most of the load, and he's amazing. But they do not have. They proved last year that a team with solid depth and a good goaltender can stop that team. And there are so many teams on this board, and that aren't even on this board, that can do the same thing and whoop the Avalanche. They have not recovered what they missed from their Stanley Cup win a few years ago. They just don't have it. The Oilers, no. You cannot have a guy who is consistently on the roster of Connor Brown and finally get his first goal of the season and think that you're good enough and deep enough for a Stanley Cup win. Not going to happen. Canucks, I'll have a whole video for them. And the Bruins are the closest team to have made it on this board. But I just think that last year's team was even better, and they were bounced. And I even called it in my video. I saw it coming, that I don't think Boston has what it takes to beat Florida. And I don't think they have what it takes to win this year. I think maybe, depending on who their first round matchup is, they can win. But once they run into a team like Florida, they're done. They're done. If they somehow get past a team like Florida and they play against the Hurricanes, they're done. The Bruins could go deep, but they're not going to win. And I think all the teams on this board have a claim to winning. All the other ones, if you want to go with the Canucks, you want to go with the Oilers, they can maybe beat a team. They can get past Vegas, but then they get bounced by a team like Carolina. And that's all I got to say. Out of this board, who do I like the most is probably the Vegas Golden Knights. They cheat to win. If you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. And they won it before. The same team won it before. And they just are even better. And Tomas Hertl, on a good team for the first time in years, he is going to be a stud for Vegas. Vegas has got it down. So they're my pick, probably. And then out of the East, I would probably say Florida again. I think Florida, Matthew Tkachuk, and just with the addition of Reinhart scoring is going to make them another level again. But anyways, that is all I got to say for now. So thank you for watching this. If you made it this far, please, I'm begging you, pick up your free subscription down below. And until next time, too sweet. Have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.